is something to enjoy. It's a way to release, it's a way to have fun.
My mum would be kind of annoyed if I said I'd put it ahead of her. It's the best sport in the world, isn't it?
It is known as the world's sport, the beautiful game. But in the college world, it should be known as North Carolina's sport. When thinking of North Carolina, the sports that come to mind are college basketball, lacrosse, minor league baseball, and NASCAR. It is often overlooked that the state of North Carolina is a college soccer powerhouse, with 24 combined NCAA men and women's national championships, despite not having a professional team at the Major League Soccer level to create interest. So why is soccer not really associated with North Carolina to those outside of the state?
Wow, it's a tremendous question.
It's a really kind of a difficult question. I think there's many parts to that.
You know, that question could take me about half an hour to answer.
Despite North Carolina being only the 10th most populous state and 29th in size, North Carolina is home to 30 men and women's NCAA Division I soccer programs. There are 14 men's D1 teams. Only New York and California have more. And the women rank 4th in terms of number of D1 programs, with 16, behind only California, New York, and Texas. But it's not just the number of programs that have put North Carolina ahead of the pack, but also when the varsity programs were started. Duke began its men's soccer team in 1935, 18 years before the school would join the newly formed Atlantic Coast Conference. Although colleges across the country had teams as early as 1904, Duke, the University of North Carolina, and North Carolina State were ahead of most and were among the first 125 men's college soccer programs. There are now 204 Division I men's teams. The women also got out to an early lead. The first women's college soccer team was established in 1966 at Castleton State College in Vermont, but UNC wasn't too far behind. Embracing the possibility of women's soccer and adhering to the Title IX ruling, UNC formed a team in 1979 under coach Anson Dorrance. It was the first women's soccer team formed in the South, and another would not be assembled until 1984 when NC State created one. This jumpstart would serve UNC well for years to come. When the ACC schools of UNC, Duke, NC State, and Wake Forest backed college soccer, the rivalries began.
It's very competitive in North Carolina. You've got a lot of very talented programs, talented coaches around the state.
And these coaches are a big reason for the success of these programs.
You got some young coaches who pushed the game, who are visionaries in the game, wouldn't take no to the fact that it was a recreational sport, an intramural sport.
Couple our early entry as a legitimate soccer conference, and you complement that with 4 fine schools in state, and it just put us in a great early position to compete for some of the talent in this country that allowed all of us to establish early soccer traditions.
It started to build on itself as they started to win, like anything else, like any dynasty. When it starts to win, people want to be part of that dynasty. The better players were all playing together on regional teams or national teams, and they started to recruit each other.
Starting off originally with having like a Carolina and a Duke and an NC State there, that's like such a natural rivalry. It just grew from there, and with the success that the programs have had, with the national championships that have come through this state, it's just driven other conferences.
The proof is in the NCAA tournament. It's not only how many teams do we get into the NCAA tournament, it's what do those teams do when they get to the NCAA tournament.
And what they do is win. The UNC women's soccer team has won an unprecedented 21 NCAA national championships since the tournaments began in 1982, including 9 straight from 1986 to 1994. But they have company in their prestige. Duke and NC State have also made appearances in the final, but both lost to UNC. There has also been a North Carolina team represented in the men's final 8 times since the tournament began in 1959, with Duke and Wake Forest winning it all once and UNC twice. That's not to mention the 7 men's players and 9 women's players from North Carolina colleges who have won the Herman Trophy, awarded to the best collegiate soccer player. That's almost 23% of all Herman Trophies ever awarded. National soccer stars like Mia Hamm, Christine Lilly, Eddie Pope, and Tab Ramos have all come through the North Carolina college system. But to be successful, one must grow the game from the ground up.
What I've liked about the growth in North Carolina actually is the evolution of the youth game here. And the youth game has gotten better and better and better. I mean, if you go back 20, 30 years, it was a rare North Carolina player that could step in and play in the ACC.
But now you're seeing every school having a North Carolina player which is making a major impact. So that's really promising.
When I first came to work here, the colleges didn't typically recruit in North Carolina. A lot of the schools now are recruiting in North Carolina because the level of play in North Carolina has gone up so tremendously.
We've been able to live off of players that we've been able to homegrown in terms of developing kids out of our local Winston-Salem League or out of Greensboro and Charlotte and Castle out of Raleigh, that we're able to produce players there that can move on and take us to national championships.
It feeds a lot of the mid-level Division I schools, the Wilmingtons, the Elons, the Greensboros, and made those programs very competitive within their conference and on a national scale.
Those North Carolina players understand the rivalries, understand the games, and understand college soccer and college sports in general.
In 1993, there were only between 35 and 40,000 youth soccer players in North Carolina. Today, there are around 74,000 kids playing at the recreational, challenge, and classic levels in 102 associations around the state. So what is the reason for this rise?
It's very available. It's very out there for kids. Growing up in the state, there was always just quality teams to watch and to grow up, following, from the college teams that are around, from Wake, Carolinas, Dukes, NC States, to the teams they bring in, Marylands and Virginias and Clemsons.
And the competition is fierce.
Guys from my team, we had guys from Raleigh and Boone and all kinds of stuff, and even from Virginia. So we got to, on a normal basis, play teams from Miami. We got to travel out to Los Angeles and stuff. We played the top players in the nation. It was top quality soccer you can get in the United States.
Many youth soccer teams fall under the governance of North Carolina's chapter of the United States Youth Soccer Association. They provide standardized rules and regulations for youth teams across the state and country.
We just offer a nice, safe environment for the kids to play in and to grow, not to mention all the educational possibilities and the developmental possibilities from recreation all the way through academy soccer.
And it means a lot for the growth of these young players to be able to witness great teams around the state.
The high-level soccer that you can watch as a youth player is really the college game.
It's vitally important that they have role models to mirror their game off of. The kids get to A, watch live soccer, they get to learn, B, they get to dream and aspire of maybe one day playing themselves in college.
Well, I certainly credit a lot of the excellent youth coaches in the state of North Carolina to having changed the culture of the women's and the youth game here, and it's made a huge difference for us in recruiting, the fact that we can actually recruit locally and compete nationally.
But they're not only recruiting nationally.
With our sport, we have access to a lot of international students.
It's a universal language, as they say.
As a coach, I think it's always good to have different experiences in the locker room.
Having the guys coming in from different parts of the world, it's very educational for a lot of the North Carolina guys that we have on our program.
You find players from around the world on rosters in the state, and it is because of the North Carolina name that this is possible. They are here not only for the soccer, but also for the well-known academics of the North Carolina institutions.
Back home, we don't have this culture that relates and associates education and sport. It's either one or the other one. Here in America, it's totally different. That's why I came here, because it's the chance you can get your degree and at the same time play in a high level.
I think soccer is just such a global sport that wherever you go, you'll just fit in, and I feel that's what it's been like here.
And while the academics and climate of the area help, the international players also want to be competitive.
The main thing is they know they're going to get great competition when they come to North Carolina too. They're aware of all the schools and aware of, that every time they step out of the field, they're going to get better. They're going to make this sacrifice to leave their families and travel halfway across the world. They want to get better, and they know that is happening in the state of North Carolina.
Oh, the levels definitely is like a step up from where I was playing, but it's good, it's like really challenging.
With schools located so closely to one another in the Piedmont Triad and Triangle areas, good competition is not hard to find.
If you're playing against the best teams, the players have to, be on their best game to be able to perhaps win or tie or even lose a game. You can still play well and lose in our sport.
Best part about Elon, we could play a top 10 team any night and don't have to go really more than an hour or somewhere. We're lucky to have this location and have all these great teams around us.
And surely playing against the best, night in and night out, can only make a team better.
It does. It gives me all these gray hairs I have. Over the years, it used not to look like this, but playing this league for a number of years, that's what happens.
You've got so many programs very close by, so you're all trying to make sure you can be competitive with one another. There's so much parity that it makes every game is a battle, and every game is so important. The stakes are so high.
If you want to be a top level player, if you want to be a top level coach, you want to come to this league because you're going to be stretched every time you step out on the field.
It is a top competition, and the best players in the country and outside the country want to, compete with the best.
And to become the best, it all circles back to coaching and getting more kids involved in youth soccer.
And I think this is one of the reasons the Triangle area here is so strong, is because of the quality of universities are here, and then the quality of players and coaches that are willing to reach out and to help the community and help these players.
Get a hold of it, get a hold of it.
When you have a large pool of players playing, then your competitive teams have a larger pool to pull from. You have more options.
But for all of the success, soccer is still not seen as a mainstream sport in the United States. However, it could get there.
There are a lot of people that still relegate soccer as a non-revenue sport.
It's a big difference when you come here and you see how people go crazy about other kind of sports instead of that soccer passion that you're used to.
A lot of people don't understand the nuances of the game. I mean, so if you go to a college soccer game, what some people may see is, oh, look at them out there on the field, they're running after a ball, I don't understand. Okay, as opposed to someone who's been involved in soccer or maybe has played the game, they can pick every detail out of that game, and it's very entertaining.
I've been involved with various levels, from dealing with 4-year-olds up to collegiate players, and it's just grown at an incredible rate.
I think now it's starting to get more and more popular with mainstream TV, with the Premier League and MLS always on it. Whereas before, you had to be a soccer enthusiast to find soccer.
But North Carolina is becoming different from the rest of the country. Would you consider this a soccer state?
North Carolina, absolutely.
In my opinion, it is the place where people value soccer a lot. And it is directly related to the level. So when people actually like it, they push hard and the level rises.
And this increase in the competitive level can be traced back directly to the colleges in the state. Former soccer coach, ACC commissioner, and NCAA president Gene Corrigan said in an interview, quote, "You have to give credit to the schools. They are the ones who pushed for and backed soccer. The ACC just provided the tournament. It's the coaching and the location. Those certain prep schools just fit the sport," end quote. So why is soccer not really associated with North Carolina to those outside of the state?
And maybe it is, associated with it, maybe, not the same scale. And I think that's what we're always pushing as college coaches. I think that's what got the sport where it is now, and and has developed the youth soccer and the collegiate level. It's just that, we keep trying to push the envelope there and try and make it bigger. For sure, we got some, chasing to catch up with basketball and NASCAR, but we're certainly, making inroads that way.
And because of the climate, because of the location, we have every sport that's imaginable in North Carolina, and most of the sports are played at a very high level. So, there's a lot of competition out there. But I think you're seeing soccer make its headway.
Yeah, it surprises me that more people don't know about it. It's coming, and I would say it's here. You always want to see more people out of the games. You always want to see more support, but I think a lot of people do recognize it as, North Carolina is a strong state in soccer.
People look, oh, you're from North Carolina, it's a great soccer state. You take a lot of pride in that. You've helped develop that. You've helped develop a lot of the coaches in this state. You've helped develop a lot of players in this state. So you take a great pride in people knowing that North Carolina is one of the top soccer states in the country.
North Carolina hopefully will grow a reputation of having good college soccer programs, which it does. And obviously the youth programs can keep thriving.
These kids that are playing, these 74,000 kids, they'll grow up, they'll have kids, and it just keeps saturating the area.